Good morning, Awaken Takers. What is going on? It is Tuesday, March 3rd, and it has been a while. It's been a while since I've been on the show. It's been a while since the show has gone on at all, but I'm glad to be back. We got a lot to catch up on, and honestly, I feel like I'm coming back at the perfect time right now. We got a ton of things that's going on. We got Combine, we got free agency, there's trades flying all around, and I'm just going to jump right into it because that's what I want to talk about. Obviously, we had the big trade yesterday. We had David Montgomery being shipped out of Detroit and going down to Houston. And that has a huge effect. Like, I know, like, it doesn't feel like it's like that big of a whatever, but it truly has a huge effect on the entirety of the fantasy football landscape because we have a guy in Jahmyr Gibbs who is locked in top 5 pick for 2026. Best ball redraft, hell, even dynasty, does not matter. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a top 5 guy no matter what. He's in there with the Bijan, the Puka, JSN, Jamar Chase. Those 5, you pretty much you shake up the snow globe and those guys settle anywhere and you're happy wherever you're at, 101 to 105. But with this news here, I truly believe Jahmyr Gibbs is the undisputed, should be the only easy click you have at the 101. The ceiling has already been the most ridiculous thing that we've seen in fantasy football in a long time. The ceiling for Jahmyr Gibbs has always been LaDainian Tomlinson level, peak David Johnson, like just these huge, massive ceilings. And we just have always been, the question has always been, well, how much does he split with Montgomery? How much does he split in the red zone, in the goal line, and within the 5? And those questions, those fears of ceiling capping, like problems, it just poof, it's gone. It's gone. David Montgomery's gone. Are they going to bring in somebody else? Of course. They're not rolling in with Sione Makai as the number 2 running back in Detroit. Like that's not going to happen. That's not what I'm saying is going to happen. Obviously, there's going to be someone either in the draft. I would expect round 3 plus, or maybe even a round 2. Who knows? I feel like I can never put a pin in where Detroit is going in the draft. I'm always kind of confused. I feel like offensive line and defense need to be shored up 100%. So if we spend a round 2 pick on the running back position, probably going to be a little bit like frustrated, but I was also, probably a little bit frustrated about Jahmyr Gibbs when we drafted him and gone. Problem's gone. But at the end of the day, the Lions will be adding someone to this running back room, whether it's a lower end, cheaper free agent. We could see someone like a Tyler Algier come in. Obviously, that's essentially just a swap of Montgomery to Algier. I think Algier is going to get more than what the Lions are willing to pay him for that role. So we will see how it all shakes out. But at the end of the day, I still think that no matter what, no matter who comes into that running back room, Jahmyr Gibbs needs to be your 101 in best ball in redraft. The edge is now. Like, this is where you get that ability where someone might not be taking Gibbs at the 101. Someone may be taking Bijan. They might be taking Puka, JSN. Like I said, that top 5 is kind of like a snow globe shaker where you're happy wherever you fall. But Jahmyr Gibbs needs to be your 101 selection. He is going to have a monster season. He's got the floor baked in. He's got the ceiling. Like I said, the ceiling is just like, you can't even see the ceiling now. You look up and the ceiling is all the way to the stratosphere for Jahmyr Gibbs. And it's not like this crazy far-fetched world where he hits that. Like, it's a very, very plausible, easy to picture season out of Jahmyr Gibbs. Like I said, peak CMC, peak LaDainian Tomlinson, just that type of season is waiting for Jahmyr Gibbs. And we know that the Lions can achieve it. We know that the Lions like to lean on the running backs when they have to, when they can. So I think that we're going to go see an amazing season out of Jahmyr Gibbs. But, like I said, welcome back, guys. I appreciate all of Jamie, Happy, Alex. It's great to see you guys in here. Thank you guys for coming back. I know, like I said, I disappeared for a bit there. I'll go ahead and give a little bit of an update and apology for disappearing here. Work got absolutely crazy in December through January, to be honest with you. So went on a vacation, came back, work went absolutely insane. So wasn't able to focus on the content to a point where I even like had time to do a show. So apologies for missing. I'm glad to be back. Like I said, it's a perfect time to be back. We got rookies to talk, we got dynasty to talk, and we also got some, like it's pretty much peak best ball season too. Like it might not be when everyone else is doing their best ball drafts, but I feel like this is the best time to get your edge, especially with the rookies. A lot of things going on here where there's just so much uncertainty with the draft not happening yet. So there's pockets where the uncertainty is so high that you just take a little bit of a dipski into it. You don't have to go full bore like every single draft or you're taking the same dudes in the same pockets. You get to sprinkle it around a little bit, take advantage of the guys that are precariously perched right now. We have a ton of free agents that we're going to go over later. Guys just like Tyler Algier, guys like Kenny Gainwell, Rico Dowdle, like these secondary type, second fiddle running backs that are either going to put themselves in a position to be values themselves, or they're going to completely destroy a running back room. So there's a whole lot of things to take advantage of in the best ball landscape, in the dynasty landscape. If you're doing your rookie drafts before the NFL draft, there's just so many places to take advantage of value. That's what we're here to talk about today. Jamie, you had the 101 yesterday for an underdog draft on a podcast, and you still took Bijan. I mean, that's, like I said, those top 5, all great choices. I just think that it's not even a question at this point that it's Gibbs at the very top. I love Bijan. I think he's going to have another great season. Hopefully Atlanta can, put something together that's a little bit better offensively and a little bit more consistent compared to what we saw last year. But at the end of the day, I maybe a little bit biased, but I just think that the Lions are going to have a better bounce back than the Atlanta Falcons are. And I think that's only going to benefit Jahmyr Gibbs moving forward here. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's get moving. Let's get moving. Not trying to fumble my way through my first episode back. Not trying to do that. We're going to jump right into the news, and we got a ton of news going on right now. I'll revisit the David Montgomery trade just to kind of cover everything outside of Jahmyr Gibbs, outside of Ja. Falcons have 2 times coach of the year. Yeah. Woo! He did so good. He did so good, man. I don't know. How can he not turn it around, right? He seems to always have his finger on the pulse of what the quarterback move should be. And, there's no controversy right now in Atlanta over quarterback. Not at all. They don't still have Kirk Cousins under contract. Maybe cut. Maybe sticking around. Maybe Penix. Maybe not Penix. I don't know. But bouncing back over, we got the Demont trade to the Houston Texans. I think that overall, in terms of the NFL, this was a big fat W for the Detroit Lions. Very sad to see David Montgomery go. He was a huge just focal point of the team, not just the offense, not just the production that he had, but to the team. He very much embodied the Dan Campbell mentality of taking kneecaps, having a chip on the shoulder at all times, and just running angry and making sure that the team stayed angry and ready to go and ready to perform. And he was a huge piece of the team. Very sad to see him go. I don't know if you guys saw his Instagram post, shed a tear as a Detroit Lions fan, but hoping that he has some success down in Houston. In terms of his fantasy value, though, I am a bit terrified because we saw last season and the past 2 seasons, really, the Houston Texans' number 1 problem is the offensive line. And instead of addressing it this offseason, they have shipped off 2 offensive linemen, both of which had starting snaps, like significant starting snaps on their line. I understand wanting to do a full, maybe tear it down to rebuild it type thing, but I also feel like you got to have you have to have some foundation to start with on the offensive line. And I don't know what they're going to be doing in offensive line. I know they're obviously going to have to, we're still in the early bits of the offseason. We still have the draft for them to address it. We still have full-on free agency for them to address it. There's more trades that can happen. This isn't like the season isn't starting tomorrow, and they're not going in with the offensive line they have at this exact moment. But I am still just very concerned about this offense as a whole. We've seen Stroud struggle without having the time. We've seen the wide receivers struggle. We've had Nico Collins looked like a bust at the beginning of the year. Then he got an injury. He came back and was strong once again once things kind of did get settled and they kind of found a groove there with the line. So I do think that there is potential here. This is an offense full of weapons. They have lots and lots of exciting young players. They got exciting veterans that are proven studs. So it'll be interesting to see. And overall, in terms of David Montgomery himself, the value, I do like the fact that he goes back to being a 1A starter. We will have to see how the offensive line shakes out. I think right now, looking at the outlook of the season, it's a very lateral move. He goes from being the 1B, even the 2 in Detroit, where he was more of an efficiency touchdown-based running back. He now goes to the flip side of that, where he's going to be way less efficient in Houston with the offensive line. The offense in general is going to be a step down from Detroit, so he'll be a lot less efficient, but the volume is going to go way up. We saw Houston clawing. They've been clawing for like 2 years now at a steady running back to lean on. They tried to bring in Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon had the great season last year before the injury completely derailed it. And then he completely just didn't even play this season due to an off-the-field injury, off-season injury that we still never got clarity on. He's still technically a Houston Texan right now, but the writing is on the wall that he will be cut at some point. So it is going to be the David Montgomery show, and Woody Marks is going to be in that similar role that we saw him in early last season, where he's going to be more of a breather back type to the veteran that Houston wants to lean on. It's just instead of Nick Chubb or Joe Mixon, it is now David Montgomery. So Woody Marks goes from someone that I hope you sold him in Dynasty because his value was kind of getting crazy when he was the only guy in the room. People were kind of going a little bit crazy like that. So if you were able to flip him for a second even, that's a great win right there, in my opinion, for a guy that you probably drafted in the 3rd, 4th round of your rookie drafts last year. If you could have flipped him for anything, good deal. If you have not flipped him yet, my advice to you would be just to hold Woody Marks for now until you see some type of like volume game where you're able to make a flip for just about anything at that point, because I think that Woody Marks is going to be, without a David Montgomery injury, wildly irrelevant in fantasy football. He's going to be one of those hopium type guys that people will hold on to try to chase the high that they got last season, where he was the bell cow for that stretch at the end of the year. The Texans O-line still sucks. Exactly. Like until they address that, like David Montgomery is literally trading high touchdown expectations. Woody Marks is his volume's gone, so there's nothing here that makes me excited other than the fact that David Montgomery is going to get volume. But like I said, Woody Marks, put him in the corner, wait until you get a moment where he has a random big game and one of your box score chasing league mates is just not paying attention, and you flip him for a 3rd or something like that. But yeah, you're kind of stuck with Woody Marks for now. And then, like I said, back over on the Detroit side, Sonic, Gibbs, 101, easy for me. But as I said, the Lions will be bringing someone in, whether it's in the draft or in free agency, and that person is going to be relevant. We've seen the RB2 in Detroit be relevant for even before Jahmyr Gibbs. We've just seen the Dan Campbell offense. I know that he's not always been calling the plays. We had Ben Johnson, we had Dan Campbell in there calling the plays. Now we got Drew Petzing. So I do think that whoever is the number 2 in Detroit is going to have standalone value. It's going to be a role where it's not going to, it could be, like I said, I keep coming back to Tyler Algier. I feel like Algier is like, he's a perfect fit there. I don't know if the money's going to work out, but I like the role in my mind is Tyler Algier, where from last season, where he gets his work, he gets his 10 to 13 carries. He'll be in for some of the goal line work. He's not going to be a pure 1B. He's going to be a firm 2. But that firm 2 is going to very much be like carry some fantasy value and going, especially in best ball. You'll get some spike weeks from the Detroit Lions RB2. It will happen. So if you do miss out on Jahmyr Gibbs at the 101, go after whoever is the RB2 in your best ball leagues once we have a more defined backup instead of Sione Vaikai. That's where I'm at with the Detroit Lions in terms of the running back room here. But it's not just the Lions. It wasn't just this trade. This is just, the freshest one in my mind. And it was, a little near and dear to my heart. So I'll go ahead and I'll move on for everybody else's sake. But again, Marks down, Montgomery lateral, Ja to the moon, and then whoever the RB2 is, go snag them once it's defined. Fantasy Whiplash, good morning. How we doing? It's been a while. It's good to be back though. Happy to see you in here. We got some more running back news. Let's just stick with it. Javonte Williams is a little bit older. He signed his 3-year extension with the Dallas Cowboys. It's for $24 million was the reported. So about $8 million per year for Javonte. And I think that's great. I just from a Javonte, the dude standpoint, the Javonte, the football player, as well as I think this is his best case scenario for fantasy football relevance as well. We saw him have an amazing bell cow season last year. And I mean, we've seen Dallas kind of always want to stick with that. Like we even when it was like Tony Pollard in there, as the number one, he was very much the bell cow. I know we saw some Dowdle like mix in, but that's the NFL today. There's very few true bell cows, and Javonte isn't going to be that true, but he's going to be a 60 to 65% guy once again, unless some crazy Jerry Jones nonsense goes on and we see someone else get brought in. I do think that obviously someone does get brought in because behind Javonte, very similar to Detroit, not great back there, but I don't think that it's going to be anyone. This is their big signing. I don't think there's going to be a second big running back signing in Dallas. We saw Javonte play great. We saw him provide fantasy value on a weekly basis on a team that was passing the ball an insane amount because the defense was an absolute piece of Swiss cheese. So I think that all of these things, I think Dallas is building and going to get better as a whole. And I think that only improves Javonte Williams' outlook. I think it was already very good. He is someone where if you did have him in Dynasty and you made a run and now you're trying to tear it down and rebuild, you can sell high off of this news. This is great news for him. This is great news for his value. But I also still think just because of the name, the past, the fact that it's the Dallas Cowboys, you might still be able to get him for a decent value if you are looking to contend this year as well. So he's kind of in that in-between stage where he's a sell and a buy for me. It just depends on my team outlook right now in terms of Dynasty. And in terms of redraft and best ball, I'm going right back to the well. I love Javonte. It's not as much of a value this season because last season it was the whole, who's it going to be in Dallas? There's 3 guys. There's Jaden Blue. There was Miles Sanders. There was Javonte Williams, and people were just picking and choosing. Now we have the defined role. We have the defined hierarchy in Dallas. So there's no true discount, but I still think at value, Javonte Williams is going to be an absolute great click of the button this year in 2026. So I think that that's great for him. And I think that it's great for the offense in general. Sticking with the Dallas Cowboys, we had George Pickens. I don't remember if he actually got the full tag or if it was just still looking like he's going to be getting no, it did because the deadline passed. Brain fart there. George Pickens franchise tagged, looking for a long-term deal. He might hold out. He might not hold out. You never know with a guy like George Pickens. He wants to get his money. Obviously, he did his 1-year contract. He did his time on that. He performed spectacularly. He did fall apart at the end of the season quite a bit when CeeDee Lamb was dealing with injury, when he did have to be the number one dude in that offense and was dealing with number 1 corners compared to the number 2 or number 3 corner. He did kind of had some issues where he was giving up on, it looked like he was giving up on plays. There was a lot of tension when talking about the Dallas Cowboys and George Pickens. So for the fact that they're going to franchise tag him, the tension's only going to build. It's going to be an offseason drama piece the entire year. He's going to play. He doesn't have the foothold underneath him, the consistent production behind him to hold out and to get anything done. He's going to play on the franchise tag. He's going to get paid quite a bit. And maybe he gets his deal next year. Will it be in Dallas? The fact that they're not trying to commit to him right now tells me probably not. They got a lot wrapped up in Dak and CD already. They just signed Javonte for $24 million more. So I don't know if Dallas is the long-term stay for George Pickens, but I definitely think he's got one more amazing year ahead of him in Dallas. I'm back in on Dallas once again this season. I think that they're like the weapons are just, they speak volumes. The value is the issue here. The value last year was so high because there was so much uncertainty. There was so much like, are they going to be good offense? Are they not? Like, it's the same old Cowboys. So the value is being sucked out compared to what it was last season. But I still think that at current ADPs, I still think that it's great value. CD's a great back at like mid first, late first pick. Still, Pickens is going to be again. You're drafting him closer to his ceiling now, especially with the holdout fears. But I think the holdout fears are only going to help suppress the ADP and keep it in check. The risk is going to be built into the ADP. I don't think that you're drafting Pickens at his ceiling at this point. The same with Javonte and even Dak. I think Dak is going to be another perfect one. Happy. Do I think that the tag keeps him motivated to get the big bag by being productive again? I mean, no. I think the tag just feels like a slap in the face to him because I feel like that's what he did last season. He did the bag chasing last season by trying to keep his keep his thoughts a little bit quieter, try not to make as much like of a hoopla on the sideline in the locker room, being okay at being the number 2, the 1B in this offense behind CeeDee Lamb. I think he did all of that last year and expected the bag this year. So I feel like the tag does not keep him motivated. I think the tag just feels like a slap in the face to him. He wanted the big contract. He took the 1-year deal. He did the prove it. He proved it, and he didn't get the deal. So I feel like he's going to be upset about that. Do I still think he can produce even with that? Yes, absolutely. I think he's the type of guy that like can go ahead and play at his best pissed off. Will he have some crazy moments? Will he have some things where he's picking fights on the field? Yeah, but that's George Pickens. That's a known quantity. That's a known factor in your George Pickens thinking and philosophy. Jamie, do I think Joe Milton can be a future star? We're going to have to see a lot more development out of him. I don't know if he's going like without a Dak injury. Does he see the field? Do we get that out of him? Do we even get the opportunity? I think he is a great deep dynasty stash in terms of the backup quarterbacks because the ceiling is astronomical. But just where he's at right now, I just don't know if it's again. I think it's a good stash. I think it's a very good deep dynasty stash, but I just don't think that we've seen enough to feel that way. I think obviously a lot of development occurs behind closed doors in the practice room, in the off season, things like that. So I think he's got all the tools there. It's just needed some refinement on some of the more efficiency based type of attributes. So if the work is being done there, absolutely. I mean, the profile, the talent has always been there. It's just always been the soft skills of being a quarterback that we've been wanting to see. So if we get to see it, awesome. I would love to. But right now I'm going to say no. But still think he's a great dynasty stash here. And did I know that George Pickens is the great nephew of Bo Jackson? I did not. That is a fun fact right there. I like that one, but I mean, it makes sense. I mean, so yeah, Dallas Cowboys, George Pickens, Javonte Williams, both sticking around. His dad's father's brother is Bo Jackson. That's kind of bad. I mean, the athleticism that runs deep in some families is absolutely insane. Like when you look at it, like that's crazy. Like one of the best, and then obviously George Pickens has been just a monster athlete his entire career, college, NFL, high school. So that's pretty awesome there. Some more franchise tag news, though. We had Kyle Pitts also get the franchise tag. So one of the big name tight ends, take him off the free agency list. He is not going to be going anywhere for this year. He gets another year in Atlanta. The real question is, who the hell is going to be his quarterback? We talked about it a little bit earlier with Jamie here. We don't really know who the quarterback is. There's been so much weird talk coming out of Atlanta. We've had the full coaching shift. GM owner. I don't even remember how much they chucked and shuffled and replanted, but we do have Matt Ryan in the building making and assisting in decisions. He's already said that he is not a part of this specific decision, but we all know he is. He's going to be. They didn't bring him in to just sit there and make business decisions. He is 100% a personnel decision type guy. So the fact that they have not committed to Penix is concerning. We saw flashes. We also saw very bad. We also saw a season-ending injury. So it's just been a giant confusing wave in Atlanta, and it's going to continue. The ancillary weapons around whoever is the quarterback, still incredible. Darnell Mooney, I think, is still on contract. Drake London, the alpha of alphas, the Kyle Pitts, the unicorn, who had, once again, another guy that flashed, but just like Atlanta as a whole, they were one of the most inconsistent offenses. They were putting up 50 one week, they were putting up 0 the next week, and there was no telling. There was no rhyme or reason as to why. It wasn't matchup based. It wasn't personnel based. There was literally no rhyme or reason to what the Atlanta Falcons offensive output was last season. Obviously, coaching change, play calling change, just change all around. You got to think it's only going to be positive with who they brought in, some more stability. So I do think that we see more stability. We see more consistency out of these guys in 2026. But at the end of the day, we still don't know who the quarterback is. So it's an opportunity. I think if Atlanta players outside of Bijan are still running at a little bit of a discount because of the uncertainty, because of the poor quarterback play we've seen, I would go ahead and take advantage, because I think that these guys we've seen them perform with Penix. We've seen them perform with Cousins to certain extents. It's just, again, we've been missing that consistency. So if the draft rooms are afraid of consistency right now, of the lack of consistency, I'm going to go ahead and be dipping back in. I'll take Kyle Pitts. I'll take Drake London. Obviously I'm taking Bijan. I'll take my shots on Darnell Mooney. So I definitely think that we see more stability and consistency here in Atlanta. So in terms of Kyle Pitts, I'm back in terms of best ball redraft. I'm back in on Pitts. I'm not going to push him up. Like if he gets pushed up crazy and he's at like just behind like the big guys, why are we raising Gibbs without Monty but not Bijan without IG? Bijan is raised without Algier though. He's the 102 to me. So it's like I think that I flip flopped him just because, and I think that Gibbs in the Detroit offense is a lot better bet than Bijan in the Atlanta offense. Because while I am sitting here saying that I do think that we see more stability and consistency, there is a proven track record in Detroit of consistency. I know that it kind of floundered a little bit last season based on the offensive line injuries, but we have not seen the consistency from the Atlanta Falcons. So I just think that, yes, Bijan is already like his ADP is already baked into the Algier-less value. He was at the 101. I don't know how much I can raise him if he's at the 101, 102. Gibbs was at the 102 for me before, and now with this Monty business, he's at the 101 easy. Like it's not even an argument for me. But I think that Bijan is raised without Ajit. Like that's already been factored in. The Monty news is fresh. That wasn't factored in quite yet. It's factored in now. So I do think that like I said, we see more consistency. I'm still in on Bijan. I'm not saying like, oh, like you can't touch Bijan. Like, no. Bijan, like in 2 through 4 or 2 through 5, anywhere I'm getting Bijan in that range, beautiful. But I still like if you're telling me to pick Gibbs or Bijan, I'm picking Gibbs because of the team. I'm picking Gibbs because of the ceiling. I'm picking Gibbs because of it's Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's just a more explosive version of Bijan Robinson. Bijan's bigger. Bijan's got the size on Gibbs, but that's about all that I see here. But I mean Bijan's gonna have a great season. Like I said, I do believe that Atlanta has a more consistent offensive season, and I think it's going to be better for their floors, but I think their ceilings are about the same as it was, unless some crazy quarterback shifting happens and they get someone that is just no questions about them, which I can't even think of who that would be. I think the best case scenario is Penix being the guy and having another year to get better. But obviously with the injury, like who's going to be the fill-in for that period of time? I don't know. But like I said, I'm still willing to buy back into Atlanta at their current ADPs just because of the fact that, like I said, the lack of consistency is already baked into that. So people are kind of fearing that. So I'm willing to take the value there on a Pitts, on a London, on a Mooney. But it's not as sure feeling as the Detroit Lions bounce back, in my opinion. But what about you guys? What do you guys think about Kyle Pitts, especially in Dynasty? Because I know Kyle Pitts in Dynasty has been one of the craziest players that, in terms of like the value that I've ever seen. Like the people that drafted him, they drafted him like top 5, top 3, top some crazy people were taking him 101 in tight end premium superflex leagues in their rookie drafts because he was the unicorn. And so his value started as high as it could possibly be. And then it immediately cratered after just like, okay, first season, 1,000 yards. So it held pretty good. But then ever since then, it's just been chunking down. It hasn't been like a slow trickle down. It's been chunks every season, chunk down, chunk down, chunk down. And then we finally see some promising notes. Again, no consistency, but we saw booms out of Kyle Pitts finally. And that's something we hadn't seen since his rookie season. So now with that, I'm interested to hear from everybody. Comment in the video, comments after the fact. If you're listening to this after the fact, go to YouTube, go to Spotify and leave a comment and let me know, what are you doing with Kyle Pitts in Dynasty if you've held on this long? Are you selling high based off of the big boom we had last year after the ginormous playoff explosion? Or are you saying that this is the time that tight end takes a long time to develop, and this is finally you enjoying the fruits of your labor, maybe overpaying back then, but now this is what you overpaid for. You're going to wait and see for the payoff. Or are you saying, I'm taking what I can get right now, I'm getting out? Because I think that he is one of the most interesting. I have minimal Kyle Pitts in Dynasty. I was never willing to pay the price. I've always been a snag my tight ends later type of guy. I've never been go huge on the tight ends early. It's changed a little bit. I've gone a little bit higher on the tight ends. I will take a late first round rookie draft tight end. But those guys that go in the top 5, top 6, I just think it's such a hard position to translate to the NFL that we've seen it time and time again with these first round tight ends in the NFL. They don't pan out immediately, or they have a great rookie season and then they slow down into more of where the development would be expected. So Kyle Pitts is just at the tail end of that cycle right now where he's starting to come around. Is it real or is it fake? And we're going to get fake back out and he's going to start chunking back down. That's where I'm very much not confused, but that's where I feel like that's the big question here with Kyle Pitts. Like he could be an all-time great. It could have just taken 5 years to get there, 6 years to get there, because tight end is a tough position to learn in the NFL. He still has the tools. He still has the athletic ability. He's still a dynamic player. He's had the injuries that have hindered him on an almost yearly basis. He stayed mostly healthy last season. So I just want to know, what are you guys thinking? Are you selling? Are you selling high compared to what his value has been in the past 2 years? Or are you holding on and hoping that everything comes back around and you get your big payday with Kyle Pitts just 6-7 years down the road? Let me know. Jamie, you bought a lot of Pitts last year for late seconds. Your co-host had him valued in that early third area, which I always thought he was top 10. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think late second would have been a great value to buy in at. I do think that some people still might buy him for a high second at this point. It really comes down to your league mate's mentality on Kyle Pitts. Like the market is so all over the place with Kyle Pitts that there's no way to give actionable advice about Kyle Pitts outside of, well, what do you feel and what do your league mates feel he's worth? At the end of the day, it could be all over the place. So I think that if you're not sold on Kyle Pitts being the number 1 overall tight end in the next 3 to 5 years, sell now. If you don't think that that's even a possibility, sell now for whatever you can get. And if you are still bought in that he can, his value, like if you do think that he's going to be one of those perennial top 3 tight ends on a yearly basis, again, in the next 3 to 5 years, buy for right now, because if he has another good season, that price is not going to be anywhere near what you would want to buy in at. So I definitely think that if you're unsure about Kyle Pitts, sell for what you can right now. If you think that he's got the stretch of great years is coming now, buy right now, because like at the end of this year, we'll see one way or the other, right or wrong. I think it's going to be a very polarizing answer at the end of the season, and I want to definitely circle back to this one at the end of 2026. Moving on along, we have a couple other small news. Nothing major, no major shifts here. Before we jump into some combine talk and some free agent talk, we had the Miami Dolphins started their house cleaning. Shipped out the GM. I really do got to say, with the Miami Dolphins, as big of a dumpster fire as they have been, I think they're doing the rebuild right. You get rid of the GM and the head coach at the same time. It drives me crazy when teams do this, where they'll get rid of the GM and they'll keep the head coach, or they'll get rid of the head coach and they'll keep the GM, where they keep one of the two key players in terms of personnel, because then that whoever is left is stuck. They have their one shot, their 1 year to fix it. And the odds of them fixing something that bad in 1 year is very slim. So then let's say they would have kept McDaniel and fired Greer. The new GM comes in, he gets a quarterback to replace Tua for McDaniel. The experiment fails, because guess what? There's a lot more holes than just quarterback in Miami. And then all of a sudden, McDaniel's gone. New coach comes in. New coach doesn't like quarterback that new GM picked. And then the cycle just viciously repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. So I think Miami made the right move by getting rid of McDaniel as well as Greer at the GM position. I think that they're fully going to be able to build from the ground up. We see that with them shedding these old veteran players with big contracts. Tyreek Hill, released, free agent. Bradley Chubb, released, free agent. Both those guys off the books. Clear the books. Don't even care what the cap hit is. This year does not matter for the Miami Dolphins. This year is a tank year. For all intents and purposes, it is a tank year for Miami. And that's great for them. They get to rebuild. What happens with Tua? Is he going to get cut? It doesn't sound like there's a trade market for him. What's going to happen with Tua? Does he get one more year to do a tryout to maybe get some trade value for next season? I doubt it. I think he's going to be another cap casualty here, and they're just going to eat as much burnt cash that they can this year, so that way they can start to rebuild next year, 2027, not even 2026. They're going to do what they can this year. But I think 2027 is where we start to really see the Miami Dolphins rebuild begin. But in terms of Tyreek Hill, major leg injury, older wide receiver whose entire game is speed. Does he find a home that is fantasy relevant in 2026? Everything in me, like it very much feels Derrick Henry-ish in my mind, and just not the type of player, because obviously Tyreek Hill has just all sorts of baggage with him in terms of off the field, in terms of just the play style, but he's just one of those freak athlete, freak of nature type guys, where we've been saying that the speed aspect of Tyreek Hill can't continue. It can't be his only buoy over and over and over, and season after season after season. But it just keeps happening. Just like Derrick Henry. We all keep saying the cliff for Derrick Henry is coming. I've given up on that. 2 years ago, I gave up on that. I've been all in on Derrick Henry the past 2 years, and it's worked out wonderfully. And I'm starting to feel that with Tyreek Hill, where I can't just say he's old, he only relies on speed. There's no way it's going to continue, because it keeps continuing. So I think that Tyreek Hill is going to be a value. If he's able to come back at the beginning of the season. It fully depends on where he goes. Is he going to chase a bag once again? Does he want to get some money, or does he want to reunite with his good buddy Patrick Mahomes? It's tough to say this year that he would do that, because Mahomes is coming off of was it ACL tear, so it's not like Mahomes is going to be in prime condition if Tyreek does reunite with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I don't know where Tyreek is going to go. Again, he's coming off his own major disgusting injury that he dealt with. So does it matter where he goes? Are we really going to be moving the fantasy best ball market based off of Tyreek Hill? I don't think it's going to shift values to a crazy degree, but I do think that depending on where he goes, if he's able to find himself on a team that has a deep ball quarterback, that has a passing offense in general, I think that Tyreek Hill is going to be a huge value this season. Just because, again, he's one of those guys where he just continuously finds a way to do it, even though the age says it shouldn't be possible, even though the leg injury says it shouldn't be possible. He just consistently finds a way to just be explosive, to be a good football player, regardless of everything else around him. So I do think that Tyreek is going to sneak in as a value. He's, again, like I said, he's one of those guys where everyone's going to write him off for age. Everyone's going to write him off for every reason. So I think his value is going to be very much depressed. And I think that it's going to be a huge opportunity, especially in best ball. Redraft, maybe not so much. I might not. We'll see once I get to making like those types of decisions. But in terms of best ball right now, where I'm getting in the early best ball streets, I definitely think that Tyreek is going to be someone I will come back to on a fairly regular basis, just because the ceiling is way up here, the value is here, and the floor is also down here. So it's one of those things where the risk is baked in my opinion, and it's a shot I'm willing to take on a guy that has freaky athleticism. The last little bit of news that I have that I could possibly try to cram into the show sheet was Aaron Jones is expected to be cut from the Minnesota Vikings. Hasn't happened yet. I'm sure there's discussions going on, and it depends on when he gets cut for the cap hit and everything like that. So we will wait to see what happens officially with Aaron Jones, but it is looking like he will not be a part of the Minnesota Vikings moving forward. So another name thrown into the free agent fray. A lot of big names out there right now. We still haven't seen all of the tags and everything like that get slapped on people yet. So we'll see how small the list really gets as the offseason starts kicking into full swing. But before we get into the combine and our rookie talk and a little bit of dynasty fun here, I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to just talk about. I've been talking about best ball. That's truly my focus this offseason is going to be best ball. I love dynasty. I have lots of dynasty leagues, but in terms of rookie evaluation and things like that, I am not my number one source for that. I'm not someone who is able to dive in and fully examine all of these prospects and all of their college tape and all of that. I lean heavily on people in the fantasy space, Cody Carpentiers, Thor Nystrom, all of the guys at Destination Devi, Ray GQ, Coach Retzlaff, Chev, all those guys. I lean very heavily on all of them for my rookie analysis. Not my rookie, but I lean heavily on their analysis to inform my decisions and kind of just create my strategy. So that is, I like I said, I love dynasty. Not my main focus. My main focus this offseason is very much going to be best ball values and looking forward to redraft. I will always talk dynasty with you guys. I have no problem with that. Again, it's not my primary. So going to try to keep the offseason a little bit more best ball focused for now, and with the dynasty sprinkle in there. But right now, in terms of best ball, this is the best time to find values on guys. Like we were talking about last season in the Dallas Cowboys backfield, there were 3 dudes fighting for people's draft picks, and they were all going very late in drafts, sometimes double digits in drafts, all 3 of them. So there's lots of value to be parsed out by doing your best ball drafting early. And right now on Fast Draft, we have the Rabbit promotion going on right now. To talk a little bit more about that, I will go ahead and pass it on over to the Podfather.
They say best ball hasn't changed in 5 years. Until the Rabbit. Clean, easy, $50,000 prize pool that you can actually win. Show the ownership, show the exposure right there in the draft room. We're talking about a full best ball draft. 20-second time clock, takes 20 minutes. And use your host promo code or FAST for a $50 deposit match when you sign up. Now let's go start drafting faster.
And there it is. That is the Rabbit. That is the big draft from Fast Draft. It's not the the 6th rounder. That is the 15 rounder. That is the one that I was jumping into as much as I could last season. And if you haven't already made a deposit on Fast Draft, go ahead and use the code JOwensFF over there to get that $50 deposit match. That's what, 2 to 5 free drafts, depending on how much you put in yourself there on top of what you're putting in. So love the Fast Draft app. I love that Matt and everyone is just continuing to try to keep it fun, keep the contest rolling throughout the year, because look, there's the Origins draft as well. Go ahead and jump in there, get your drafts in. And like I said, there's a lot of value to be had in February, in March, in April, in May. There's a lot of value to be had. The landscape is not settled right now. There's a lot of questions, a lot of people, a lot of names moving around that we just don't know yet. And if you want to take advantage, if you have a good feeling, if you have a gut feeling about a team, a player, go jump into some best ball drafts, go draft those players and reap the rewards in December of next year. But yeah, Fast Draft, like I said, code JOwensFF, $50 deposit match. Let's keep it rolling. Jamie, Chev is awesome, 100%. Chev is one of my favorite guys to follow. He's knowledgeable. He's got a good zest, like, personality to it, where it's not just him saying something and sitting there. He's got conviction. He's got a lot with it. And John Lobb is, he is deep in those college football streets. And yeah, the stuff that he puts out is always a great read there. Profited a little bit from last year on Fast Draft. It right now is the time to get into Fast Draft. It's still early. It's not all optimization bots. It's not all the biggest of the, like, it's not the biggest of the big best ball, like, creators, content guys aren't fully in their own Fast Draft. So everyone, it's growing every single year. So now is the time to get in and make sure that it's very easy to profit on Fast Draft. It is very easy to do it on a weekly basis, and overall on the annual basis. It was a good time. So jump in there in those streets. But let's move right along. We are going to talk about, if I can find where I'm at, the combine movers. Like I said, I already told you guys, prospect analysis is not my number one thing. That is not what I'm going to sit here and say I'm the best at. I'm very good at reacting to information as it comes. I'm very good at staying fluid and going ahead and making sure that as data comes in, as people move around, I'm always very much looking forward at, okay, we know what the surface level is of a certain reaction, but what are the secondary, the tertiary, like the fourth, the fifth level? What does all of it mean? It's all one big puzzle, and I like putting together the puzzle. So while I may not be the number one prospect guy out there, I can tell you the combine, it does matter. I know that it's kind of being diluted down, especially with a lot of these guys not participating in drills. It really, that is one thing that I really want to see how that impacts not only the fantasy football impact, like obviously, like the combine numbers, the testing numbers very much have a huge impact on rookie drafts and rookie rankings and just dynasty content in general. So the fact that a lot of these guys are not testing and that data is not readily available for a lot of these guys that have their models, like we got Evan Ringler, we got I've seen JJ Zachariason with his model. Like all of these models, they depend heavily on metrics such as the 40, the 3-cone, the burst score, the speed score, all of that. So the fact that we're seeing so many guys opt out because they don't want to tank their own value, I'm really, really, really interested to see how that impacts fantasy football decisions as well as the NFL draft. That's one less data point. Like it seems like there's going to be a slight turn back to old school scouting and tape grinding and that kind of thing. So I still think the best approach is always take your two hands, your data analysis, your tape grinding, your eye test, and you put those hands together. But we'll see when data starts to fall off and we have less data points. Does this go up to kind of counteract the balance? We'll see. This is a very huge year in that because a lot of these guys did not test. But for the guys that did test, we have some big names and some big impacts here. Obviously, the 101 doesn't matter if it's super flex or single QB for me. Jeremiyah Love is the 101 still. He went out there and he did what he had to do. He took care of business. He probably didn't have to run. He probably didn't have to do a whole lot there, but he still went out there and ran his, what was it, 4.39, 4.4, 4.43. Crazy fast for a guy with his size and everything. I do think that we are going to see Jeremiah in the top 10. Obviously, it might not happen because this is a very defense-heavy draft, and obviously defensive positioning in terms of positional value much higher than a running back. But I still think that a team like Kansas City would be interested. I've heard New Orleans' name thrown out there for Jeremiyah Love, so I think that Love is going to be a top 10 selection in the NFL in the NFL draft, which obviously means he's going to be the top guy in the rookie class this year in your dynasty drafts. Like I said, I think I'd even put him above Mendoza in terms of in a super flex league. I think that it's just this is one of those can't miss running back prospects. This is the Bijan level. This is a guy that we've been hearing about whispers from the Devy leagues back when he was a youngin' all the way up through college. It's just been one of those guys. It hasn't been will he hit? It hasn't been will he hit in the NFL. It's been when is he coming out? When is he going to come out? We want to see him in the NFL, and we're getting it this year. So I think that we're going to see him again in that top 10. And the question is, will we get redemption for that top 10 running back after the Ashton Jeanty failure? And I think we do. I think that Vegas was just a very bad situation for Jeanty to fall into. There was no offensive line. Geno Smith was a problem with that lack of offensive line. He wasn't able to facilitate a functioning offense without the help of an offensive line. So I think Jeanty really got the short end of the stick on it. And he was an absolute trap. He was an absolute trap at the back end of the first round in best ball drafts to the early second round. He was an absolute trap there. And I think that that's exactly the spot where Jeremiyah Love is going to slot in. Obviously, if he goes to Kansas City, people are probably going to pump him up even into the mid first round. Terrifying, but I think that Love is going to be one of those guys that is going to deliver on his ADP in terms of dynasty, in terms of best ball, in terms of redraft. I think no matter where Jeremiyah Love gets pumped up to, it is going to be worth the selection. Jeanty still produced top 12. He did, but there was just like, let's see, what did he end up producing? Where did he end up? Let's see here. That's a great question. It definitely was disappointing from Jeanty, just from the fact that he was being spoken as a lock for top 5. Like he was being drafted very much at a ceiling level. Yeah, in PPR he was still top 12, running back 13 in half point. Unless I'm just on a weird league setting that is doing that. Let me go to a regular league setting here. Let's go to a regular league setting. Jeanty. Yeah, running back 11 in PPR, running back 13 in half point PPR. So he was still great, but he was being drafted in like that. Like I said, he was like in the top 5 running back. So for him to finish outside of the top 10, it did feel like a trap. It did feel like a disappointment, especially with some of the names that propelled ahead of him. And he played a full 17 game season. So it's not like you can write it off to injury. So, and to be fair, a lot of it, like when you're looking at the game log here, there were a few boom weeks. We had 34 points against Chicago week 4. We had 32 points against Houston, but then everything else was very much, it was very boom or bust. There wasn't a lot of consistency. The end result, RB13 and half PPR. But how you got there did not feel good with where you drafted him. So definitely was a little bit of a trap that I think that Jeremiyah Love corrects that. I think that Jeremiyah Love is going to be a bit more of a consistent player because at the end of the day, there's very few spots that are as rough of a landing spot for a running back in that top 10 in terms of offense. Like Vegas was probably one of the stone worst spots for a top 10 running back to go to just because they didn't have anything established. They had no solid offensive line, and the fact that Geno just completely flopped did not help him. Obviously, that wasn't a known quantity of Geno flopping coming off of one of his better seasons. obviously landing spot's going to matter, but I just think that at the end of the day, it's not going to matter enough to make me think that Jeremiyah Love is a trap. I think he's going to be the redemption story for this top 10 running back in the NFL draft. And I think he's going to be worth the value in that. I think he's going to slot into the same exact spot because people are going to be afraid of the Genty comparison of the top 10 guy. But I think that Love slotting in at RB 5-6 is going to be about where he's going to fall, with some top potential there because he is that good of a prospect. He is on the same level of Genty as Bijan in terms of prospect, from everything that I'm seeing. So I am in on Jeremiyah Love. Another running back who I think is going to be bumping up here in terms of his value is Mike Washington Jr. We all saw the absolute just explosion onto the scene from Mike Washington. There were analysts out there that were starting to pipe up a little bit more and say that watch out for this Mike Washington Jr. guy. He's going to be good. He's going to be good. And then all of a sudden, no one had to slowly build up to that anymore. He came out and just lit the combine on fire. Absolute. 10 out of 10 RAS score for it. Take that however you want it. If you're big on the athleticism metrics, 10 out of 10, just the size, 220, 225, 223, the speed, the 4.3 speed, just everything about what he did there says that he is going to be shooting up the rookie rankings here. Right now, he is still on in terms of keep trade cut, which I'm using that one right now because we are still waiting for the Dynasty rankings to go through their number crunching player profiler, but he's RB6 in terms of player profiler right now on their Dynasty rankings. I do think that's going to be bumping up higher. I do think that there's some big names ahead of him still, but I just think he did more than enough to solidify himself. And I think once the draft capital comes in, the NFL took notice. It's impossible not to take notice for a guy lighting the combine on fire as he did. Keep trade cut. He is still down at running back 7 as well. But again, I think that is he's firmly in the tier 2, but I think he's going to be climbing that tier 2. He's going to be closer to the running back 3, 4 in terms of what I think the rookie rankings are going to shake out to. He's not in that locked in guaranteed type stuff. I still think that there's a big 6 or big 7, depending on how you feel about KC Conception. But I think that he's going to be slotting into the late first round, as you're saying there, Jamie. I think he's going to be slipping into the late first round, the early second round. Obviously, the draft capital is going to change that. Where he lands is going to change that. But I think in terms of what he did, I think he's going to be climbing consistently as we approach the NFL draft, and then he can take an even bigger leap depending on how all the players shake out. But he is someone that if I am drafting early now, I'm snagging him in that range because the upside is there. And when you're in a dynasty league, we all know that those late first aren't guarantees. We love the value of a first round pick, but if it's a late first, it's not a guarantee. Second round picks, not guarantees. So if we see a profile like this, a big, fast running back that can make things happen, I'm taking that shot every time. So I got no problem with it, especially because there's not a lot of deep quarterback in this draft. You have Fernando, and then you have Ty Simpson, and then after that, there's just not anything there where I'm like, yeah, no, this is good. I'm taking my shots on the quarterback and hoping that they get a shot at it. I think it's very much you're going to go running back heavy this draft, and the running backs aren't even that exciting. The exciting part of this class is the depth at wide receiver, but that is also a trap in itself because wide receiver is always deep. There's so many wide receivers out there that produce. There's only a finite number of running backs that get a shot. There's only a finite number of quarterbacks. There's teams that run 5 wide receivers. So it's one of those things where it's just the wide receiver depth is always pitched as a buoy of a class, but I always feel like it's almost a trap. It's a trap in itself. It's obviously it's a good fallback, but I will continue to take my shots, especially in the late first to early second. I will take my shots at the running back position when there's no quarterbacks that I'm looking at there. I do like the top 3 wide receivers that we have here. Obviously, we've seen Cardinal Tate, Makai Lemon, and Jordan Tyson. We've seen them jockeying for their positioning here to be the wide receiver 1 in this class. At the combine, we've seen a weird little shift in the Makai Lemon talk. I've seen lots of guys say that Lemon is the wide receiver 1 here. Really, I've seen a lot more lately of Tate and Lemon over Tyson. Tyson had a big start to the offseason of everyone posting the highlights and saying, the wide receiver 1 of this class, wide receiver 1 of this class. That's kind of faded a little bit. So I don't know if that's just people getting tired of seeing the same highlight package and the talk dying down. I haven't seen anything negative, but it's just, I feel like the hype pieces have kind of died on Tyson. And what it's shifted to has been a smear campaign on Makai Lemon's character, which, again, I'm not big on prospects. I don't know much about Makai outside of what I consume as a reader, as a watcher of fantasy football content. But there just doesn't seem to be anything of substance there in terms of Makai Lemon's character concerns that have teams taking him off their board. It's a weird one. I don't know if it's just like NFL teams trying to get into the media and suppress a guy's value so that way he falls on the draft, or what's truly going on there. But I feel like it's an absolute opportunity for us fantasy football players to get value on a guy who is going to be good. Like, I don't think that there are true character concerns here. There's no story that says like, oh, this guy off the field is a problem. He had some meme-like responses in a presser. He had a clip from a drill where things just seemed like a miscommunication between him, the coach, and the quarterback, and that is being blown way out of proportion. And like I said, people are pushing him down. I don't know fully the extent of like fantasy football players pushing him down, but like the NFL is pushing him down, and that just feels crazy to me. But again, an absolute screaming opportunity to get value on a guy that could arguably go 103, 102, depending on the situation and depending on a league's quarterback need. But Makai Lemon is definitely one of those guys where if he's going to fall into the 105, 106 range, if people are going to start taking like a guy like Kenyon Sadiq over him or anything like that, or they're going to push anybody up like over a Lemon and take Lemon at the 105, that's going to be great value at the end of the day. If you can get Lemon at 105, 106, that's perfect. That's amazing. But yeah, I still think that the big 3 are the big 3 and you can just interchange them. It's obviously landing spots going to change so much out of those 3 in terms of who is going to come out on top as the wide receiver 1 between Tate, Lemon, and Tyson. But I'd be happy with any of those 3 guys. I'd be happy, would be ecstatic, obviously, to have the 101 and get Jeremiyah Love. And I still think that Fernando Mendoza, although he isn't the most exciting QB prospect to be coming out in a long time and he's going to the Las Vegas Raiders, I still think that he is going to be a solid selection here in the top 5. Obviously, Dynasty, Superflex, you can't let a quarterback slip too far. We saw CJ Stroud slip in some drafts. I know I got him at like 105, 106 in a league when he came out. So it just feels like it's one of those things where we know these guys are going to have their growing pains on a bad team. That's why they're a top draft pick in the NFL draft. They're not going to the best of the best. But I think that Mendoza has the ability to go ahead and be a solid quarterback in the NFL. I think that he's not going to light the fantasy numbers on fire, but he's got a little bit of wiggle. We saw him in the national championship. We saw him distribute the ball well. So I think that he's going to be a very good long-term. He's got some staying power in him. I feel like he's one of those guys, and he seems to be a rallying point for teams. He's just a genuinely, from what he's projected, from what we've seen, from the way that the media portrays him, he's a genuinely good seeming dude that people want to rally around. I mean, the family story is one thing, but just like the way that he's always presented himself and carried himself and backed it up with production, I think that he's going to be one of those guys that is going to not be a top 5 fantasy option, but I think he's very easily going to be in that top 12 to top 15, 16 pocket passer with a little bit of wiggle type of gameplay. It really just depends on what Vegas does around him now and in the future. The offense is looking to be on the up and up. I mean, we got Bowers, we got Janty. They got the ability to add with the wide receiver depth here. A lot of options to add, and they got Clint Kubiak, who just led one of the best offenses in the league. So it's percolating for him. We'll just see. Again, I think you obviously you have to take the shot on Mendoza if you're in that top 3 picks, in my opinion, unless you are just completely loaded and you traded for the 10 and happen to win the lotto and get the 101, 102, or the 102 because 101 Love. But if you got the 102, 103 and Mendoza's there and you don't need quarterback, I would still take Mendoza. Just value. Like you can flip that type of guy no matter what, or flip the pick. Jamie, Mendoza can be a guy like Goff, which is a reliable super flex option. Exactly. That's exactly what I was saying. That QB 12 to QB, I would even like extend it to QB 18 because that's very useful. If you have the QB 18 in super flex as your second option at QB, that's huge. That's great. That's consistency right there. That is someone where you set it and forget it, and you don't have to try to scramble and wait for news to break. So I do like Mendoza. We didn't see anything from him. He's another one of those guys. He didn't have to throw. He didn't have to do anything. So we didn't see him at all. And I don't think any of the other quarterbacks really did enough at the combine to move the needle anywhere. Ty Simpson does seem to be moving up NFL draft boards, and there is like the whispers of, oh, I can't. The quarterback position has been so annoying to me in terms of the NFL draft and the rumor mill that's been going on for the past like 3-4 years. Like we keep hearing these guys, oh, they're locked in at the top 10. They're locked in as a locked in first rounder, guaranteed first rounder. The number there, you didn't think he was going to go 102, but he's going 102, and that's what we're hearing with Ty Simpson. There's been talks of the Jets going after him at like 102, 103, whatever. Like if they trade back a little bit, still going after Ty Simpson. And I don't see that. This feels like 100%. The fact that there's scarcity, it's causing a panic where people are trying to hype up this guy to try to influence the value of the pick, to try to influence the value of the quarterback, to try to influence like the perceived market for a guy like Ty Simpson. I think that Ty Simpson's going to be okay. Will he even get an opportunity? I don't know, but I feel very much like he is going to be a guy that is not going early first round. He is not going to be maybe even a first rounder at all. We may only see Fernando Mendoza go in the first round, and Ty Simpson could fall all the way to the second round. The way that the quarterback's media situation has been handled in the NFL draft the past couple of years, I have zero confidence in what anyone is saying in terms of anyone outside of Mendoza. From Shador Sanders to Malik Willis to just it's all smoke. It's all smoke screens trying to affect the value of the picks and everything. Like nothing means anything until the draft selection made, in my opinion. And that's where I'm sitting at with Ty Simpson. I think that he is another guy that like you late first round in your rookie drafts going to be a good shot, just because, I mean, he's probably good enough and going to get enough draft capital to earn a shot at some point this season. And the value, if he does get the opportunity to start, just skyrockets. So I will still be drafting Ty Simpson, but he's not one of those guys where I'm like, oh, I'm targeting him heavy. I'm going after him. I'll jump a couple spots to make sure I get my Ty Simpson. I'm not doing that. I think he's going to be all right. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with the quarterback. And then, like I said, with the wide receiver, we talked about our top 3. I still need to do a lot more digging and learning on the guys outside of those top 3. But in terms of the combine movers, we had 2 tight ends just go back and forth with each other of just who's going to be the freakier athlete. And we had Eli Stowers from Vandy lead us off with his incredible vertical, with his burst, with his speed, a guy that wasn't really being talked about a whole lot, except for like it with your big prospect guys, as someone who is going to be a big mover and shaker. And then another guy like Mike Washington Jr., where he just exploded at the combine. being talked about a lot now. So I think that Stowers has definitely moved himself up there as the clear like tight end 2 in this class. Obviously, number 1 is still Kenyon Sadiq. He was the tight end 1 going into this, and a lot of what I saw pre-combine was Sadiq isn't who you think he is. He's not going he's going to be good, but he's not like the production doesn't say this. And then he came in and he told y'all, shut the hell up. I'm a freak of nature. And he ran freaky wide receiver like speed numbers at about 220 plus, 230 plus. So a smaller on the smaller side in terms of tight end, but just an absolute monster athlete. And that's I know we just got done talking about Kyle Pitts, but you want to see the athleticism out of tight end. You got to see the athleticism out of tight end because that's the number 1 correlation between success in the NFL is you got to have athleticism. You got to have the freaky athleticism to be to hit early, and that's what Sadiq has. Again, he's kind of in that top 6 in terms of the rookie rankings, where he's climbing up quite a bit, but he's firmly entrenched in that he's like the beginning of the tier 2. He might have slipped into the back end of tier 1 in terms of overall, where you have Love, Mendoza, and the top 3 wide receivers. You can maybe slot him in there, but I don't think you can take him over any of the wide receivers. You can't take him over Mendoza, and you can't take him over Love. So that's why I think he's just firmly entrenched, as he is showing on Keep Trade Cut. He is the start of the tier 2 for them at number 6. So you got your top 5, your big 5, and then I think Sadiq might even be in his own tier for the time being until the draft happens as the number 6. That's just where he's going to be going, especially in your tight end premium leagues. The dude's gonna got the ability to put up some crazy numbers. He didn't do it in college. I know Johnny Tuma brought that up to him on the podium, but I think that he is definitely going to be a guy where he's got the ability to do it. He's got hands, he's got he's got route running, he's got the athleticism to pull it off. So I think Sadiq did himself a ton of favors of just proving the fact that he is the freak athlete that he has proclaimed to be. And I think that Eli Stowers is going to be one of those guys that goes, where is he going overall right now? Eli Stowers right now is the number 19 overall. So that's back end of the second, mid second rounder. And I think that's a great spot to take him. I think he might get bumped up a little bit more as the post combine dust settles and as the draft approaches and as he finds a team. If he finds a good landing spot, he's going to jump up to an early second round pick too. So definitely someone to keep an eye on in terms of moving, but a guy that I do like taking a shot on. I don't like spending early draft picks on tight ends, but if they have the athleticism to back it up, I don't mind spending a second rounder on a tight end. I have a hard time pulling the trigger on the first round tight end. So where Sadiq is at 6, very tough for me to buy in as a dynasty player. I much rather would have a wide receiver that feels a little bit more trustworthy, or just trading the pick, just because we've seen it. We've seen Kyle Pitts be a top 5 dynasty selection, and it's taken, again, 5, 6, 7 years to see that value. And I don't even think at this point, the lost value you've had over the many seasons is not worth it. So if Sadiq stays here, which he most likely will, I don't see myself drafting a ton of him. I do think that he has the potential to have a big boom, but in terms of the way that I play Dynasty, it's just not someone that I will be going after. If I have that 106, I will move it to someone. I will move back a couple spots, 1, 2, 3. I'll move anywhere in the first round. If someone wants to come up and get Sadiq, I will pocket that value plus some, just because I do fear the first round rookie draft tight end. But like I said, at the end of the day, I'm sure I will be taking lots of Sadiq in terms of best ball and redraft, because I don't think his value is going to be super crazy over there in those markets. So I definitely think that it's going to be someone that is going to be a very good value in terms of seasonal leagues, but just not someone that I'm looking to spend the 106 on in Dynasty. I would rather keep that golden loom that the Podfather talks about spinning and get my picks for next year. If I can trade him for a 2027, the 106 for a 2027 first plus a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to keep looking for my tight ends down and dirty in the dumps, where I'm looking for those guys that are in the nitty gritty, that are just seeing the field and keeping me afloat there. And then try to hit later on. That is all. Let me double check. That is all that I got in terms of the combine. Like I said, I'm still very early on in my my dynasty analysis, my dynasty studying, if you will. So I will be adding more every show as we go on, as I start to learn more, as I start to digest from all those guys that we talked about today, all of those analysts, especially over at Player Profiler and Destination Devy. Those are like my number 1 and 2 sources, as well as Coding Carpentier. Love everything that he puts out in terms of NFL draft season. We are at about an hour 15. I do got to get going here, but I will say that I have lots to talk about still in terms of top free agents. There's guys out there that are expected to be on the move, whether it's trade, whether it's being cut, whether they're a free agent right now. So I will be back. I'm going to try to pre-record a show for Thursday, so that way I can just get back into that schedule of the Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 o'clock, but I won't be able to go live on Thursday due to some personal things I got going on. So I am looking to put a show out on Thursday for you guys, where we can dive into these top free agents, and then we can meet back right here next Tuesday to go over and have some live chat about those guys, those top free agents we got. We're going to be talking Malik Willis. We're going to be talking Kyler Murray. We're going to be talking Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne. I gave you all those second fiddle guys. We talked about them too. Rashad White, Tyler Algier, Rico Dowdle, Kenny Gainwell. We got a lot to talk about in terms of those guys. There's lots of wide receivers, and there is a weirdly deep tight end free agent class going on right now. Nothing earth-shattering, but just a lot of dudes that flashed here or there, but haven't found a good foothold in their current offense. So they're going to be on the move, looking to make a name for themselves in a new place, a new team. So we got a ton to talk about, and I look forward to doing that on Thursday with you guys. Again, won't be live, but we can circle back on Tuesday and keep the discussion rolling there as the news continues to come in. But that is all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you coming in, as always, for Wake and Take. Make sure that you are following me over on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at JOwens_FF. As I always say, I know you guys aren't big TikTok fans, but anyone that's new here, if you do want to check out my TikTok, it's at JOwensFF over there as well. Looking to get back to posting clips and standalone videos over there as well. Make sure that you are dialed in and following Player Profiler Now page here on YouTube to keep up with my videos here, as well as everyone else on the channel. And make sure you're also following the main Player Profiler Roto Underworld channel to make sure that you are getting the best of the best information right now. What else do we got to do? There's no football. There's no grind going on right now. So get your studying in for your dynasty drafts. Digest that information. Find your spots that you want to take in best ball. Jump into some fast drafts, and I will catch you guys on Thursday. Appreciate you.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.